So I'm here with Nat Hawley from Exceptional Individuals, and you yourself are neurodiverse and work at Exceptional Individuals, which provides lots of different types of support to adults. Can you give me an overview of how you help adults that come to you?
Oh, cool. Yeah. Hi. So we help adults understand their mind because typically people are either diagnosed with a condition and not told much about it or not given any sort of guidance. So we try to help them come to terms with how their mind works and how to utilize it more. And then we look to put them in contact with employers which are more inclusive. This could be by making sure they've had training, support, guidance. We also deliver workplace needs assessments.
Okay, perfect. So what services does your organisation offer to employers then?
For employers, we do a range of activities from delivering audits, so review their systems to make sure they're accessible and inclusive, from their culture to their online services to face-to-face recruitment. We also deliver training, which is aimed at either general employees or managers to not just accept neurodiversity, but to really utilize it. We support current staff to make sure that they have everything they need to succeed, maybe equipment, maybe coaching, mentoring. And finally, we also support organizations with recruitment, making sure that they can get neurodiverse talent in the organization and to help set up reasonable adjustments.
Oh, yeah. In very general terms, what type of jobs are suitable for dyslexic people?
I wouldn't say there's a particular type of job because it risks like pigeonholing individuals.
Yeah.
But jobs which oh, sorry, one sec. Oh, sorry. I feel like I was going to sneeze, but I didn't. All right. So jobs that are good for those with dyslexia, I think, tend to be jobs which are more creative. Now, creative doesn't have to mean arts and crafts. It means jobs which involve you to think three-dimensionally and to like use your hands. A lot of people would say we are visual thinkers,
Yeah.
and that simply means we think in pictures rather than with words. So roles which are less abstract and more creative tend to be more beneficial. A lot of people that we support tend to gravitate towards roles which have more creative freedom or roles which are more people facing.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Dyslexics are known for both strengths and weaknesses. So, what advice would you give to dyslexic individuals to help them identify their own strengths and weaknesses? Because it can affect different people's like perceptions and confidence in their own abilities.
Okay, well, if you want to understand yourself better, your strengths and weaknesses, I wouldn't limit yourself to the label of dyslexia because I think that while it is a good starting point, it can be quite limiting and it does have negative connotations. It's much better to ask yourself, what are the things that come naturally to you? What are things that you enjoy and build upon them? Quite often in society, we are told to put don't put all our eggs in one basket, but
Yeah.
actually I think it's much better to find something you're good at and put your energy into it. You want to nurture your curiosity rather than kind of stamp it out too early on. I often call it like a spiky profile where you look at the skills that you struggle with and then also look at the skills you really thrive in. And while you want to support the skills you struggle in, you want to push the skills that you are doing well and put all your energy into those.
Mm. And you want to excel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of your own experiences, you've actually overcome significant barriers within education and you are now studying for a master's degree. Can you tell me how you've reached that point? Because I know speaking to you previously, that your educational journey has had high and low points in terms of achievement in the subjects that you're interested in.
Well, actually, I just finished my master's now, so all qualified in
Well
neuroscience.
done.
Cheers. I suppose it's rather than trying to fight the system and push myself to learn in a way which isn't conducive to how I learn best, is to accept that I don't learn the conventional way and find approaches that work for me.
Yeah.
So in the education system, it can be very demotivating because you're like, I can't do anything, I'm dumb, I'm stupid. No, the system is broken and the teachers aren't equipped to teach people who process information in different ways. And that has really kind of allowed me to think anything is possible as long as I'm able to find alternative routes around things. So if I'm blocked in one area, I find other ways around it. And while that can take additional time, you end up becoming a much better problem solver, a lot more creative in your solutions, and ultimately more innovative. So I do think something which could be perceived as a negative, if nurtured in the right way, definitely can be your unique selling point.
So I guess actually adding on to what you've just said there then about finding other ways, today, what effect does dyslexia have on your daily life as an adult, and like how do you make those adjustments?
Dyslexia on my day-to-day life, I would say while it is something that stays with you your entire life, it doesn't affect you in the same ways as the older you get. Because when you're younger, you're still learning how your mind works.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the difficulties come around, because someone is telling you, like, say you're a fish, hey, I need you to climb that tree. It's not going to work. But when you find your style, it becomes less of a barrier and more of a alternative perspective. So on a day to day, I'll often look at things in like a three-dimensional way and think, okay, how can I connect the dots there? How can I make this quicker? How can I make it easier, more effective? So I suppose dyslexia turns into creativity on the day to day. Now, that being said, there are instances where I will still struggle with, say, spelling or reading or comprehension, but it's not so much of an issue because I found coping strategies and ways around it. And if anything, it allows me to question decisions I do more thoroughly. So actually, my work, while may have the odd mistake here or there, is actually way more thought out than someone who hasn't had to second guess every single bit of information they've ever written.
Well, like you said that you don't think it affects you more as like you get older. You said more when you're in school and in education. Do you think that as a society we support dyslexic people that are sufficiently enough once they've left full-time education?
Definitely not. Because there's lots of, while the support I would say is necessarily good, there is support in the education system, and typically when you get into adulthood and ready to go into the working world, you kind of fall off of a cliff.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of individuals have had to find their own coping strategies rather than get the support which would be required. That can be a long journey. It can be very mentally exhausting. And it also means that a lot of people with dyslexia come with them with a lot of trauma because of the way they've been treated or the uphill battle. So I think while it's useful to know that dyslexia does get easier the older you get, if we don't get the support throughout the journey, the negative consequences can be quite severe. Like there is a link between poor mental health and dyslexia.
Yeah.
That's not because dyslexia is inherently a mental health disorder, but it's because if you spend your whole life thinking differently and struggling and thinking that there is something wrong with you, that is going to have negative repercussions.
Yeah. Would you say that there is sufficient awareness that adult dyslexics can access the types of services that exceptional individuals offer, or do we need to do more to promote support for adult dyslexics?
I think there's enough support, there's enough awareness now that dyslexia is a thing, but we need to go beyond awareness and move over to acceptance. When it comes to adults with dyslexia, I think a lot of people think it just disappears, or right. I think a lot of people think it just disappears, but it doesn't. It stays with you,
Yeah.
and the challenges and the coping mechanisms that people come up with are draining. So I think what typically happens for, say, physical health is as soon as you start a workplace, someone will look at you and I thought, all right, we need to make adjustments to make sure it's fit for purpose for you. Where someone with dyslexia gets no adjustments. And the only time they get support is once they are already struggling, like maybe a couple months down the line. And by that point, it's too late.
Yeah.
Well, I would say making sure that people's unique learning styles are catered for at the very beginning of their employment journey, rather than just when they might be struggling later down the line. That also said, I also think we should not just look at individuals who have, say, dyslexia, but people in more general terms. Like, okay, you're an individual, you have a unique wiring in terms of your brain processing. What works for you? And
Yeah.
also not to put all the emphasis on the individual to know how their mind works. None of us do. We're all on a journey. So the manager should know how to get the best out of the individual, and the individual should find ways which helps them articulate their mind. So it has to be a 50-50 approach.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I know you're not feeling too good, so thank you for doing the interview. That's been really useful and very informative. And Exceptional Individuals is such a wonderful organisation. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.